Our next guest is Nicole Shimosaka. She is the Chief Deputy Director for the Division of Administrative Services at the California Department of Aging, CDA. In this role, she provides executive leadership and oversight of the department's administrative functions, including budget, accounting, local finance, and business operations. Prior to her current role, Nicole served as CDA's first Chief Financial Officer from 2020 to 2022, where she led financial strategy and operations across the department. She previously held the position of Fiscal Operations Bureau Chief at CDA from 2018 to 2020, managing budget and accounting teams. Nicole began her state service with the California Department of Justice in 2014 as a budget analyst and was promoted to budget specialist in 2016. Nicole additionally holds a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice from California State University, Sacramento. And with that, I will go ahead and virtually hand the mic over to you, Nicole. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Bobby. I appreciate that. Recently appointed. That's why the notes are outdated. So thank you very much, Alex, as well. I am here today to share the valuable work that is happening at the California Department of Aging. And I also have our equity specialist, Kayla Gutierrez, with us today. She's going to help me with the slides. And she's going to share some more of the resources and tools that we've developed for older adults and adults with disabilities to either help with community resources that might not be known or just emergency preparedness. There's a lot of different resources that we've created over the last few years that I want to make sure we uplift in this setting. So first and foremost, the California Department of Aging is a very small department. At least I think it is. We have less than 300 folks that work in this space, but we do have 15 DAC participants that meet quarterly. And the DAC is a very robust group that puts on many events internally and sponsors many trainings internally. We are also very well represented at local events such as the National Disability Employment Awareness Month, outreach events that happen usually in the October timeframe. And we've provided several trainings, like I said, such as ageism in the workplace, diversity, equity, inclusion for staff and leaders. And we've provided disability etiquette training from our Department of Rehabilitation colleagues to all staff prior to our return to office efforts. And we're actually going to do a refresher course again this fall. We're major champions of the CalHR inclusive hiring practices that they've begun to roll out, and we work diligently to train all of our staff and managers on those practices so they understand the why behind the work and the importance of the changes that we are making. Next slide, please, Kayla. The California Department of Aging does not provide any direct services to the public, but we oversee and support services that are being provided. Many of the local partners that we work with that we consider make up the aging network include area agencies on aging, caregiver resource centers, aging and disability resource centers, multi-purpose senior services programs, and community-based adult services programs. Our policy, programmatic, and administrative oversight is wide-reaching across programs for older adults, people with disabilities, and their caregivers. We are a department that is focused on creating an age and ability-inclusive California that empowers choice among all individuals. And we are leading California's aging network through future-focused planning, creating equitable programs, and we're focused on deepening our collaborative partnerships that support the older adults and persons with disabilities. We value deeply here at the department all of the core values, and this is what we work to model both internal and external across the aging network. We're person-centered and responsive, meaning we prioritize Californians' needs and preferences, ensuring that our programs and services adapt and evolve. We value equity and inclusivity, advocating for all Californians to ensure equitable access to resources. We model ourselves in leadership and collaboration realm, leading with a vision for the future and linking arms with our diverse community partners to realize that vision. And we're data-driven and outcome-based, which means we make decisions informed by evidence, which includes eliciting feedback from lived experiences. And we're committed to enhancing the effectiveness and reach of our programs and services. Next slide, please, Kayla. We deeply understand and respect the connection between aging and disability and the prominent intersectionality. This intersectionality looks at how advancing age and living with a disability interact. It creates unique, compounded social, economic, and systemic barriers. As disability prevalence increases with age, this intersection continues to compound social exclusion, economic vulnerability, and specialized healthcare needs that many times go overlooked. And we are working to change that. The intersection of aging and disability is a rapidly growing area of concern, requiring a shift towards understanding both aging and disability are natural, diverse aspects of the human experience that deserve to be treated with dignity. There's two core dynamics here, and one's aging with a disability, and the other is disability with age. The difference being that aging with a disability would include individuals who developed disabilities early in life and faced distinct physical challenges and unique long-term care needs, often with the systemic gaps that provide major challenges as they enter adulthood. Disability with age would include older adults who develop new physical, cognitive, or sensory impairments due to the natural biological aging process. We've included a list here of some of the systemic challenges that the department is focused on and working in the space of, but this by no means is exhaustive. We have double discrimination, which would include individuals that face simultaneous discrimination for ageism and ableism, both stigmas that we are working to remove from the culture here in California. There's compounded stigma and mental health concerns to be aware of, such as resistance to using mobility aids or lack of access to these resources. This can greatly impact an individual's self-worth and mental health as there's a loss of independence. These individuals often face higher risks of depression and suicide, which can further be exacerbated by the stigmas attached to aging and impairment. There's economic strains, the accumulated cost of lifetime healthcare expenses, many times that directly impacts retirement savings. There's environmental barriers such as public spaces, transportation, housing, which frequently fail to meet the needs of those who are aging and disabled, limiting mobility and community participation, creating a feeling of being siloed and isolated. There's siloed healthcare, which the healthcare systems simply are not designed in such a way that support aging and disability. It's often fragmented, and instead of being a healthcare system that wraps around the person's often going many different directions trying to get what they need. And there's policy gaps, such as public assistance programs often carry rigid eligibility rules based on strict age cutoffs. On the next slide, please, Kayla. We are in the heart of the Master Plan for Aging right now, which is a 2019 executive order by Governor Newsom that is intended to prepare California for the changing landscape of the older adult population. The older adult population is extremely diverse with very complex needs and is growing faster than any other age group in the state of California. By 2030, there will be nearly 10 million Californians will be an older adult, which we consider to be age 60 plus. That's about 25% of the state's population. And for the first time in our state's history, the pendulum will have swung, so there are more older adults than there are children. The Master Plan for Aging is intended to be for current older Californians, younger generations, and communities of all ages and abilities. We've defined 5 goals that house all of the initiatives that are being worked on under the Master Plan for Aging, and this is not strictly a California Department of Aging initiative. This is a whole of government approach. It's philanthropic work, it's private organizations, it's government organizations. We have many sister departments that we partner with. And every 2 years, there are new initiatives that come forward and the old ones are closed out. There are advisory committees that inform the initiatives, and there has been significant progress made in what it means to age here in all ages, stages, and all ability levels in the state of California. First and foremost, there's housing for all ages and stages, which Older adults and adults with disabilities need housing options. The options they need might change across the decades. Housing that allows for different household sizes with accessible transportation options, welcoming parks and public spaces, and strong climate and disaster readiness are foundational to the well-being and continued engagement in civic, economic, and social life. There's a focus on health reimagined, which gets to the heart of the bifurcated healthcare system. This focuses on Californians living longer lives. That is a fact. People are living longer than they have ever before. And this means that people will need to seek home or community care to support optimal health and continue to live well within these homes and communities of choice. Critically, these services are often unaffordable for individuals, particularly for middle-income older adults covered by Medicare only. To provide the care needed for optimal health and choice as we age, medical services and non-medical supports can be integrated and made accessible to people living in both the home and community. Further, inclusion and equity, not isolation. A cornerstone of building California for all ages and abilities is continuing, evolving, and creating new opportunities for meaningful engagement. Employment and volunteer opportunities, particularly those offering intergenerational engagement, can provide a powerful sense of purpose and connection. Older adults can also be a major source of volunteers. And to truly build a California for all ages and stages, all stakeholders and partners agree, leadership is key. California has a long tradition of extraordinary aging leadership stretching back decades. Throughout this network, older adults and people with disabilities are true leaders and essential participants in planning, policy, program, and advocacy. It's critical that we uplift the caregivers who are helping to provide for older adults and persons with disabilities and provide them the supports, including respite care, financial care, mental and emotional care as well. At some point in our lives, most Californians will seek care from family, friends, or paid caregivers. Across California, almost 5 million family caregivers help their parents, spouses, and friends who need assistance with everyday tasks to live well in their homes and their communities. Supporting caregiving for adults is essential for family life, the economy, and a California for all ages and stages. Lastly, we need to make it affordable to age. Economic security is essential to living and aging well. A particularly alarming trend is that residents over the age of 50 are now the fastest growing population of homeless people in many parts of the state. With the median age of the homeless expected to rise, the department is committed to being a partner and leader in finding ways to provide economic security for all. With that, I will turn it over to Kayla to some more of the department-specific activities that we have embarked on to make our department more inclusive and a leader in this space.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And how about that, huh? She is pretty incredible. We're excited to have her on as our chief deputy. So on this slide, we have some CDA aging resource guides. Nicole had spoken to them briefly at the beginning, and I do have these links that I'm going to drop down for all of you as well. And so, as you can tell from the information Nicole's provided, we have a very wide range of services and resources that we have out in the network. And one of the biggest approaches I would say that we take both from a DAC perspective and from a department perspective is really kind of a social worker lens is the term that I like to use. We want to make sure that people have the connection and the access to the resources they need. I think that there is a vast amount of resources out in the world, and we just maybe don't know how to navigate them as well. So one of our focuses is getting those resources out there to make sure people are connected with what they need. So we do have a pretty extensive aging resource guide that I'm going to send the link over for, and that is broken out in different sections. So if you have needs as a caregiver, if you have needs as an individual, and you want to access some of these different resources, those will be outlined. And then we know that, especially right now with the fires that are going on and some of those other things, emergency preparedness is a critical thing, and it can be very impactful, especially for an individual who may have mobility issues and things of that matter. So we do have the emergency preparedness guide that will be fairly extensive and is a great resource that we're gonna give out as well. So some of the work that we're doing in the Department of Aging, connecting in these resources, we're currently participating in what's called AIMS. It's the Age Inclusive Management Strategy. And that was kicked off by our partners at California Commission on Aging. And they have collaborated to bring together various departments in this space to look at discussing aging inclusivity. What does that look like for employment, life, and beyond? This is a 6-month cohort. We're in month 2. And we have Cal HR at the table. We have Department of Rehabilitation at the table, Workforce Development at the table. Some really, really great partnerships to build on this work and really look at if you are an individual transitioning into retirement, like Nicole had spoken to, is there a volunteer opportunity? Is there some sort of phased employment opportunity that we can look at doing? Individuals like to still be active and get out and do things, and we want to give them as much opportunity as possible and look at in the employment space, especially what opportunities are there and what can we open up. So we're really excited and looking forward to continuing to dive deep into this work and see what we can bring to the table. As far as our DAC specifically, I am serving as our DAC chair. Our parity rate as of September of last year was 19.3. We're very excited about that. Over the past 4 years, we've had an increase in our parity rate each year. So we're very proud of that number. And we're doing some really great things for our diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and accessibility group. So for CDA's DAC events, we've partnered with different sibling departments and with other community engagement groups. Last year we had hosted Althea Canines for Service Dog Awareness. And we actually got a chance to have the service dog puppies at the office and learn all about the wonderful things that they do. And we are honored to be able to host them again this year. And then also with Indeem that Nicole had spoken to, we are looking at hosting California State Library for the Braille and Talking Book Library, and kind of give a featured week on what is the Braille and Talking Book Library and what are those resources. We would like to host Department of Rehabilitation to come back for that refresher training on disability etiquette. And we're looking at partnering with the deaf and hard of hearing community, and just more of those NDEAM resources to really hone in on and embrace NDEAM and what we can do as far as education for our employees. As far as the Equity First departmental training, Nicole had spoken a little bit to that as well. At the beginning of the year, we kicked off our Equal Employment Opportunity Compliance training, Fostering a Respectful Workplace. We hosted DEI for staff and DEI for leaders. And then most recently, we just finished our Ageism in the Workplace. All of those were absolutely phenomenal trainings, and we were really appreciative to have that brought into office to kind of really dive deep into these areas. We are interested in continuing our training series. We're looking at a couple different training topics, one of which being neurodiversity and different abilities, psychological safety at work, and change management as a department-wide training. So when we have these things that we are implementing, we have some understanding of why things are changing and what the impact is and why that matters. We are currently building out our Leaves and Beyond resource page and featuring more on reasonable accommodations for staff and new hires. And actually, our Leaves and Beyond coordinator, Caitlin Swan, is absolutely spectacular. She is looking at branching out in the SDAC and reasonable accommodation community to see if any coordinators are interested in maybe forming a work group. So I am going to be dropping our email in there as well if you are interested in collaborating as a reasonable accommodation coordinator and you'd like to reach out. We'll have that information as well. And then last but not least, we really appreciate you giving us a chance to kind of feature what is aging and what is it that we do and what are we doing in the space of DAC. And like I said, I'm going to drop this in the chat for you all if you'd like to reach out. And with that, I think we're going to open it up to any questions.
Great. That was a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And again, as I mentioned previously, I think that achieving a high number of parity rate is quite an accomplishment when many departments struggle to do that. So my question is, what is it that you guys have done to make that happen? What went in to achieving that excellent outcome?
Absolutely. We have really been committed over the last few years to very inclusive and equitable hiring practices. There are what feels like very small adjustments that you can make that are really quite impactful. One that's always really stood out to me is people will say in an interview, we're fast paced and you wear many hats. And I mean, think of how many people you've scared off right away that I'm sure could have done a great job at it, but well, I don't want to wear many hats and I can't do it fast, so just, having inclusive, plain language, offering the reasonable accommodations at the start of the interview, being open to different models of interview. Some people really do well, in this virtual setting. For others, that's not going to be helpful. Providing the questions to them to review as you talk to them. Many people are visual learners, not auditory learners. Just really opening our lens through which we recruit and hire and trying to lean into lived experience. And I will say, the Cal HR changes that are underway really allow for that lived experience to shine through. I am of the opinion that there might have been too much emphasis on education previously, which is also very, very, very important, but lived experience is invaluable as well. So I think there's a lot of things that are underway right now that have allowed us to reach that.
If
Great.
I may, to add on to that, Nicole, too, one of the things we've been trying to work on honing in on, especially from like an onboarding and link crew perspective, we kicked off a link crew as part of our onboarding redesign, which is really a whole person approach as well. If you're new to our department, we have you meet with our link crew coordinator and they help you navigate these things, right? Like, what is the intranet? How do you get to these things? What is this? Everyone's using acronyms. Like, I know it can feel very disjointed. And so what we've focused on is helping people feel that connection and feel like they have that safe place, that safe person to go to. And with that, we've kind of honed in on the training with managers to say, like Nicole was just speaking to with the training styles. When you're doing a one-on-one, when you have a new employee, are you asking them, hey, what's your training style? Because I am a visual learner or I am an auditory learner doesn't mean that my staff is. So making sure that managers are having that conversation to really connect with their staff and build that camaraderie and build that connection. So staff are set up for success. And part of the link crew connection is, hey, this is our DAC. If you're interested in connecting with them, please do so. They would love to hear your feedback. We'd love to have you be part of it. And I think that that's been a really rewarding way to build on our DAC members and kind of continue to build on that momentum.
Thank you so much. Alex, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Great
After that,
presentation.
we
Thank
have
you.
Michelle. I saw Annika had her hand up, but she might come back. So go ahead, Alex.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Nicole. Great presentation. I enjoyed it, and it brought a question to mind. So my understanding is that the data you presented is for people that are 60 plus years old. And I'm wondering, when it comes to persons in age, if it's known, is there an age range that aging and disabilities have a greater point of nexus and increasing? And are these mostly, and I am assuming it's yes, but are these mostly permanent disabilities?
I actually don't know the just a blanket response to that. I know that there are certain Alzheimer's would be one. With age that increases year over year over year over year. Falls would be another one, and falls, falling as somebody who maybe is in their 20s or the 30s is much less impactful, generally speaking, to the body than falling in your 60s and 70s. So I certainly am happy to take that back and see what the nexus is there and the research around there. I'm not sure there's a one size fits all, because there's just such a broad variety of things that a person can experience as they're aging. But they certainly, as a person becomes older, generally speaking, they do rise, and it is more likely that a person will experience either a cognitive or a physical impairment of some kind.
All right, thank you,
Great.
Nicole. And I see Michelle has her hand up. Michelle, if you want to unmute.
Hi there. I'm sorry my camera's not working. Um, I had a question about IHSS, in-home support services. I know it's a program that's available to people who are living with people that need support at home, but I am stunned by how often I mention it to people that have no idea of this available resource. Is that something that you work with at all?
Absolutely. So we actually, that IHHS falls under the purview of our sister department, the Department of Healthcare Services, but there's absolutely an intersection there that is prominent. And I would say for most aging and disability services, there is not enough marketing and outreach and awareness across the board. There's many times I tell people, oh, I work at the Department of Aging, and it's met with, what's that? I think there's a lot of work to do in that realm. And I think as we continue to do that, one, people will be better connected to the resources and services they need and better understand where they need to go for those resources. That's something that we're committed to doing at the department, is making it clearer where you need to go and not leaving people to feel like they're just kind of chasing around trying to figure out who can help them. But then I also think that marketing and outreach will help to move the needle on ageism and ableism, which, culturally is something that we really, really need to address and rectify. It's very damaging to everybody, especially because, what a blessing it is to be able to age. So I completely agree that there needs to be better marketing and outreach. And that's something that we are working on.
Thank
you
I
so much.
appreciate that.
Thanks. Annika, you have your hand up, and good to see you here. Go ahead, unmute, ask your question.
Hi, Bobby Dana. How you doing?
I'm doing terrific.
And I know we have
Thank
many
you.
other
Right.
members on here. Actually, I recognize a few. Thank you for inviting me to this meeting. I greatly appreciate it. I was listening to some of your presentation. It's great to hear that that there are these resources. And I will agree that it seems like it's not known about enough across the board to the employees. And so my question is, I heard you say that it's important to make sure that you're getting these voices, these different departments in the conversation. But I didn't hear you say that you've reached out to the union and perhaps gotten, like I said, like I started with, we have union members on this call, but intentionally engaging the union where we too can come in to these meetings, perhaps help get you, right, help with that recruitment, because obviously we talk to our members all the time, and actually have through our member resource center probably really good examples of where this has not worked in the way that I think you're intending it to. And so having real life examples of where maybe our reasonable accommodations could get better when we're talking about our aging employees, when we're talking about our employees with disabilities, when we're talking about different accommodations that could be useful to them being more successful and actually being able to stay in the job rather than having to move on or move out, or having to like retire for a disability or something of that nature, when something like telework could, keep them working, doing the job, and keep the institutional knowledge in within the department and division, especially knowing that we're going to have probably a large exodus of individuals who are experiencing some of these problems, given some of the outside factors that are currently taking place. So obviously, I'll probably get a little bit more into that during my piece of this, but I think we have to get you, and I say that respectfully, meaning the managers, the people who actually have the agency to make those intentional decisions of including the union, to really get a good feel of what's actually happening, and not just having the voices of the managers who don't always, right, have that every day doing the job and or getting rejected or refusing different kinds of reasonable accommodations based off of very simple things like disabilities or aging issues or, right, having these health factors. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Annika, for a great question. And Nicole, I know that was quite a bit of, extensive inquiry imposed by, and for context, Annika is the president of SAIU Local 1000, which represent almost 96,000 employees, many of them within your purview. So in the event that you need to come back with a response to adequately answer Annika's question, you're welcome to send me the direct response, and I'm happy to share that with the audience, including Annika. It's up to you. I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
No, absolutely. And I just in short, I completely agree that the lived experience of the individual is the best way to make informed decisions and see what is working, what isn't working. I am very proud of the department for how thoughtful they are around reasonable accommodations and how I really feel like there's not a box, I guess is the way I want to say it, of, here's the small little box of solutions we have for you, and this is all we can offer. I really feel like we do the interactive process very, very well, and we try to figure out what the heart of the concern is or the heart of the challenge is so that we can meet the employee where they are at. That being said, Kayla did plug, the Leaves and Beyond inbox, because we'd really like to connect with more individuals across the state, more professionals, more individuals that can help to further inform this. I think there's a whole government approach there as well that we need to be mindful of. And there's a lot of accommodations available out there that we need to be leaning into and leveraging. So yes, I'm happy to follow up on that, but I do agree there's an importance there.
Thank you so much. And it was a wonderful presentation. Thank you for being here today. And please send me something if you want to add additional context to your response. And again, come back and see us anytime soon. And congratulations for being appointed as the Chief Deputy Director.